What are ironclads? A historical human production. Modern navies are comprised of metal ships, but for the vast majority of human history, seafaring vessels were constructed from wood. This begs a question: what is the innovative link between wood and floating steel? What are ironclads? Ironclad warships, vessels encased in steel armor, were produced from the 1850s to the 1890s and served as a formidable transition between modern hulled vessels that came before and the iron-hulled battleships that dominate the seas to this day. The basic ironclad design consisted of encasing a wooden vessel in metal armor. During the Crimean War, which lasted from 1853 to 56, both the French and English navies towed floating batteries. Ironclad barges with heavy guns attached to the rear of the vessels for use as a form of mobile naval artillery. The relative invulnerability of these iron vessels to the incendiary ammunition typically employed with great effect against wooden naval vessels sparked great interest in the potential of ironclads. Production and development of self-propelled iron vessels were undertaken by the major European nations in the aftermath of the Crimean War. Completed in 1859, La Gloire of the French Navy was the world's first ocean-going ironclad vessel. In 1861, HMS Warrior of the British Navy became the world's first armor-plated, iron-hulled warship. However, it was the United States that would prove the efficacy of this new style of warship. During the U.S. Civil War, Captain James Buchanan Eads constructed a fleet of shallow-draft armored gunboats for the use in the Mississippi River. A flotilla of these gunboats captured the Confederate Fort Henry on February 6, 1862, and engaged a Confederate squadron in Memphis, Tennessee, later that same year. The first clash of two ironclad vessels occurred at the Battle of Hampton Roads during the U.S. Civil War. The confrontation took place on March 9, 1862, between the USS Monitor and the CSS Virginia. The Virginia had formerly sailed under Union colors as the USS Merrimack before its capture by Confederate forces. The Merrimack had been scuttled during Union evacuation from Norfolk Naval Yard the year prior. Salvaged and rechristened as the Virginia, it was larger and more imposing of the two vessels. The Virginia now boasted 10 stationary guns and 1,500-pound ram mounted on its bow. The Monitor was the far smaller and more maneuverable vessel, boasting a mere quarter of the water displacement of the Virginia at only 100 feet shorter. The Monitor accentuated its maneuverability with two gun-rotating turrets. The day prior to the Battle of Hampton Roads, the Virginia won a resounding victory against two U.S. frigates, the USS Cumberland, which was sunk, and the USS Constitution, which was forced aground, at the cost of its battering ram and injuring its commanding officer. On March 9th, the Virginia attempted to engage the USS Minnesota, but it was intercepted by the Monitor. The two ironclad vessels circled one another, firing at close range for several hours. With the tides pulling out, the Monitor disengaged the Virginia and made for shallow waters in an effort to beach its larger opponent. Short on ammunition, the Virginia did not take the bait and retreated back to its home port of Norfolk. Although neither vessel was seriously damaged from the encounter, both would sink before the end of the Civil War. The Virginia was scuttled by retreating Confederate troops when the United States invaded the James Peninsula in the months following the Hampton Roads. The Monitor was brought down by inclement weather off Cape Hatteras in North Carolina. Together, the Monitor and the Virginia proved that the best military match for an ironclad was an ironclad. A lone ironclad, the Virginia had torn through the wooden frigates of the U.S. Navy but had proven incapable of destroying another lone ironclad even after hours of intense combat. Following the U.S. Civil War, ironclad vessels were quickly phased out as new methods for making steel began to allow for the construction of vessels made entirely out of metal. By the end of the 1890s, the world had moved on entirely from both wooden and ironclad vessels. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like the video. It helps us get pushed in the YouTube algorithm. If there's a topic that you would like to see, leave a comment down below so we can do it in a future episode. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. And lastly, please check out all of our social medias listed down below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.